Okay, so we each have the minutes from last month? Has everyone had a chance to read them?
No.
Ready to vote? Or does anybody have any comments on them?
Can we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes. Do we have a
Thank you.
second?
Second.
Thank you.
The whole board seconds.
I only need one.
Okay. Well, let's take a vote.
Okay. Peter Bealow,
Yes.
Dan Lloyd,
Abstain.
Jonathan Gifford,
Yes.
Gary Ingham,
Yes.
Jim Unger.
Yes.
Your vote is 4-0-1.
Okay, what's our first hearing date?
Case number 21-18, a request from St. Matthew's United Methodist Church for an equitable waiver from Article 5, Table 220-32I, to permit a picnic pavilion to be 22.9 feet from the side property line, where 50 feet is the minimum required. The property is located at 101 Sweet Hill Road, tax map 68, lot 8C, in the RCR zoning district. The applicant is the property owner of record. This morning, I received an email from the engineer, who we do have authorization for him to act on behalf of St. Matthew's Church, requesting a continuance. When the staff report was being done, it was discovered that they have a second encroachment into the setback in a different setback, so they will have to be making a separate application, and they feel it's best to be heard together.
Okay. We will grant that continuance.
Thank you.
That's a record time for a case. Okay.
We have to state the date. So, sorry, I wasn't prepared with the date. So that would be to October 28th.
Okay.
Anybody that is here for that case, you will not receive any additional notification. This is your official notice that the case is continued to October 28th.
And you're welcome to come at that time.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I think the next two cases are interrelated, so why don't we hear them both at the same time?
Okay. Case number 21-19, a request from Seaman Properties, New Hampshire LLC for a variance from Article 5, Table 220-32I, to allow a building to be set 36.3 feet from the front property line, where 50 feet is the minimum required. The property is located at 27 Plaistow Road, tax map 25, lot 33, in the C1 zoning district. The applicant is the property owner of record. Case number 21-20, a request from Seaman Properties, New Hampshire LLC for a variance from Article 5, Table 220-32I, to allow a building to be set 28.6 feet from the side property line, where 35 feet is the minimum required. The property is located at 27 Plaistow Road, tax map 25, lot 33, in the C1 zoning district. The applicant is the property owner of record.
Okay, would you care to step up, be seated, get comfortable, and please. So the only mic that's working is the one that's kind of pointing at you folks, and I've got to tell you, it's got lousy reception, so try to speak into it as closely as you can. We'll hear you, but people, okay, we'll hear you, but people out in TV land may not if you don't do so.
Good evening, my name is Dan Corliss with DK Engineering.
Yep.
I prepared the exhibit that you have and the application that you have in front of you. What we've got, if you'd like, I'll go through a brief
Sure.
description. The project that's in front of you, it's the pawn shop or the Trump building on 125. It's, next to, just south of the Bank of America, east of, or across the road from Ethan Allen.
Right.
The existing building, there's an existing building on the site?
Yes.
And parking and all that. The existing building is a non-conforming building. It's within the setbacks now. As you can see from the exhibit up there, the red outline is the existing building. The dimensions in red are the setbacks from that are presently there. There's one setback missing, and that's on the north. Well, first of all, let me explain. The north arrow isn't pointing north.
Yep.
It's an assumed basis of bearings. I've since corrected that so that it's pointing to the left, which is where north is. But on the north side of the existing building, the dimension to the property line that's not shown there is 29.8 feet. So it's within the setbacks all around the building except for the back. And they have parking spaces that are undersized that are out there now. There's insufficient parking for the use that we want to use. The lot itself is just less than a half an acre. And the setbacks as shown on the plan are 50 in the front, 35 on the side, and it says 50 in the back. That's because to the east of the property line, it's a residential district. So with the residential district, it increases it from 35 to 50. Like I said, the existing structure is non-conforming. What we're proposing to do is to remove the existing building and replace it with the new one that's in blue. We did stay inside the footprint of the other building, but we reduced the encroachment that's there today. There's one reason that we didn't push the building back further, and that's because at the back of the lot, there's the wetlands. And because of the setback from the wetlands, we have a parking area that's in there to bring that up to code for the fire department and for access, two-way traffic. That's as far back as we could push it. And so we're tight in the back and in the front. Another, I don't know that it matters, but on the south side of the building, we're going to be putting the septic system. It just got approved by the town today or yesterday. That's going to go off to the state, and we should have it within a few days. There's an existing well in the back of the site, which also has setbacks to it, which controls where the septic can go. And there are more setbacks around that septic system than you can imagine. I mean, on every side. There's a catch basin out in front. There's a 35-foot setback from that. There's a 75-foot setback from the well. The sideline, we have 10 feet. The building, we have 10 feet. So everything's kind of, it all works, and it works pretty well. But there isn't much wiggle room to move the building around. And that's the problem we were having. Another thing, it doesn't apply to this, but you might be interested in the parking lot in the back, right now all the water runs straight into the wetlands with no control. What we're going to do is put in a subsurface infiltration system to pick up all the runoff. So there's no runoff going directly into the wetlands, it'll be infiltrated. So that's a benefit to the lot. Now, the variance that we have as D read, I've got all the setbacks on there. The one that's a little odd is the stairway that's coming down from the side of the building. That was added onto the building recently, so they would have a secondary access egress to the building. And that would be the only place they could do it on the second story. It's going to be similar to the building that's out there. You're going to have the first story that's roadway level, and then underneath will be the second story.
Hold on, would you say that again? Did you say underneath this is?
Oh, I'm sorry. It would be the bottom floor.
Right,
Okay.
I got you.
That'd be the bottom floor. The level floor with the building would be the second floor.
So, just, pardon me, maybe I'm being stupid here. Is there any reason that the stairway couldn't have been moved around to the back of the building?
That's a much higher elevation from the top.
Okay, okay,
And there really isn't any room back there.
okay.
Originally I had a stairway that came down. It came down the way it did, then turned 180 degrees and went the other way. But it was much closer to the sidelines, and it was much more difficult path for someone to maneuver, especially in the wintertime. So what we've got is the encroachment. Like I said, the building, the two buildings. The first building, the footprint is about 12 1225. The proposed building's going to be about 1750, 1775. So it's a little bit of an increase, 500 to 600 square feet. The encroachment within the setbacks existing is approximately 350 square feet more than what we're proposing.
Including the stairs? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So it's less of an impact as far as the encroachment goes.
Yep.
And it's a bigger building. But as you can see, we pushed the building, all the expanse in the building is within the setbacks, and we pushed it back the way we could. So what we're asking is, even though it's an existing non-conforming building because of the setbacks, this is what we're proposing, where it would be non-conforming but less non-conforming.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. You had to apply for this because you're getting rid of the existing building.
Yeah,
So,
right. So, you know, unless you have any other questions, by the way, I gave you some photos in your package. There are two of the existing building.
Yep.
And two aerials. One shows,
Just 1 second.
oh, you got everything, huh?
I'm not messing with you.
D is nothing if not thorough. Will you be maintaining that single curb cut?
Yes. Yeah, we're not proposing anything within the right-of-way. That's all right. It's,
Well, we've got pictometry, if that helps.
this picture that's in, I think this picture is in your handout. It's a
This
li-
is what I did for these
Okay.
pictometry.
That one's a little misleading. In the research, that jog that's out along 125, it's not there. It's further to the north. That, you know, we did the research on it, and it just doesn't, that's just not where it is. I don't know how it got that way, but,
Oh, so yeah, your drawing shows that a little bit further north up 125?
right, it's north of the property line.
Okay.
See if I can get those pictures up here.
Well, this is based on tax maps, and the tax maps are
Right.
not perfect.
Oh, there are other maps out there that show the same thing.
Oh, okay.
We had a hard time figuring it out. But if you look at the top map, there's on the north side of it, there's a circle or ellipse. That shows the location, present location of the
Mr.
business.
Corvus, could I ask you to use the microphone a little
yeah.
bit more? Thank you.
That highlighted area is the location of the business presently. And what would, in the lower picture, shows a little more of the aerial where the business wants to go now. So it's just moving the business down the street a little ways.
Okay. That explanation all makes good sense, thank you.
You're welcome.
You wouldn't believe what we've heard. Do folks have any questions before we go through the variance criteria?
Well, I just have one quick one. On the overhead picture, it shows like a grassed-in area behind the building. I don't know, on this one it does.
Yeah.
And it but that's basically where the rest of the new building is gonna be.
Yeah, it goes literally to like right where the grass
And
ends.
it's okay. Just because it gives a better perspective of how big the building's gonna be.
Mr. Seaman, I need you to state your name on the record now because
My
you,
name is Joe Saman. I am one of the business owners of Nasser Diamonds in Plaistow.
Okay, but that's, like I said, it just gives me a better perspective of how big the building is gonna be.
And I don't, if you've been out there, you might have noticed the septic tank that's...
Well, I haven't been on that piece of property since it was a pawn shop, so.
The septic tank's in the back, and the only thing I can figure out is maybe the existing septic system is under the pavement, which puts it very close to the well.
Yeah.
So that's one of the other reasons that we're tearing everything out back there. The pavement's gonna have to come out in the back to be redone for the infiltration system.
Yeah, some of these older buildings are really aren't great records out there.
Well, this building's nice, right?
You should see inside.
Really?
The basement, there's like a 3-foot drop from one end to the other. And it looks like they just cut a hole in the ground upstairs and just built a makeshift stairway to just get downstairs.
Well,
Definitely not up to code.
sure. Okay, folks, anybody else have any questions? Michael, you have any?
No.
Okay, well, Mr. Murray is one of our alternates, and he's not on the board for tonight. As far as voting, we do encourage him to ask any kind of questions outside of deliberation. Yeah, I really don't have any questions either. Why don't we go to the 5 variance criteria, and I'd ask you to walk down them. I think it's page 3.
There are two of them in here.
Well, let's do the first one.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're pretty much the same.
Well, if they really are, then just, yeah, let's just assume you said it twice.
Number 1 is the proposed variance will not be contrary to the public interest because basically it's a new facility that will increase the value and appearance of the existing retail building and use and enhance the tax base for the community. Second one, the spirit and intent of the ordinance is preserved because the spirit and intent of the ordinance is to provide spacing and prevent impact to abutters. The property line in question borders the Plaistow Road, Route 125. This is for the front setback. The proposed structure is over 36 feet away from the right-of-way, thereby maintaining safe distance between the structure and the traffic. There's substantial justice in granting the variance because granting the variance would allow the productive use of the property. There's no benefit to the community which is not outweighed by the detriment of the property owner if a variance request is denied. The next one, the surrounding property, will not be diminished because considering the existing building, the addition of the new retail facility would not demise the value of the surrounding property. The new building would create a new destination and upscale retail clientele. And literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship because the property is the smallest in the area and restricted by the rare wetland area and site topography. The proposed use is well-suited for the area as well as the site as well as the area. Literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in a severe reduction in the size of the building and would eliminate the majority of the proposed required parking area.
So let me just ask, you kind of addressed this earlier, and I just want to hit it really quickly again. So the reason the proposed 2-story building needs to be partly, in the same area that the existing building is in, is because if you moved it back to be fully within that good setback zone, there'd be issues with other things, either the well or the septic not having enough room.
Well, the septic's on the side. That if we moved it, that's an issue there. But in the back, you've got the wetlands, the setback from the wetlands, which we went to conservation, and they voted to recommend or send a letter of recommendation to the planning board for the work we're doing we're in the buffer zones for the wetlands.
Already,
So
yeah.
we need a conditional use permit for that. So
Yeah.
that's kind of locked in. Plus, we have,
Okay.
because of the width of the parking spaces, the width of the drive, and the width of the walkway behind it, that's as far back as we could push it.
Okay,
If you'd like, I've got the plan here you could take a look at if you want.
now, if you showed it to us, we'd have to keep it.
Well, you can't have it.
So there you go.
Rules is rules.
I think if they push that back, you'll end up with emergency vehicle issues getting back there too. I've been
Right.
back there and plowed that lot before, and it's tight as it is, so
Is there a lot you haven't plowed here? Okay, well, it's good local knowledge. Thank you very much.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
emergency vehicles might have a hassle getting in and out of there
Yeah, what they have.
if
in
you
the-
pushed it back.
Oh, yeah. What they have, even now, it's difficult to maneuver back there. In the parking spaces, I don't know if you noticed, they're striped, but they're only striped 9 feet long. So,
Yeah, my truck doesn't fit in a parking spot. It's literally like the entire, I'd say from my steering wheel up is out of it.
so that's evidence that the parking lot needed a lot of work.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you again if you can be closer to the microphone. I'm sorry.
I feel like I'm yelling.
You're not, I promise.
Okay.
Okay, folks, anybody else have any questions or comments?
No, no.
I mean, I think this is pretty clear, so I don't have any. Is there anybody out there speaking in favor of this? Is there anybody speaking against this or with a question? Please come, do you have the microphone over there someplace?
No,
Dave?
I don't. So
If you would,
we're gonna
I
you
have
come
to
up
get
the
you
mic.
a microphone. You could use mine if you wish, or just use the middle one there.
Here, why don't you use this one right here?
Sorry, I don't mean to run you around the whole place.
My name's Michael Brent Mueller, and I own a property on 28 Chandler Avenue, which abuts the property on the wetland side. And you mentioned that you were going to do something about the water runoff. Can you clarify that a little better, just so I understand it?
Yeah, this will come up a lot more on the planning board, but what we're doing is the pavement that's at the bottom where the parking lot is, that's going to be removed. They're going to put an infiltration system below ground and then pave over it. And what's going to happen is the water that runs down the drive coming into the site, it'll be picked up in a catch basin at the end in the parking lot, and it'll go into the infiltration system.
Could you explain the infiltration system, what that does? A lot of people don't understand
Okay.
that.
What it is they're chambers that the water will go into, and it will infiltrate, it'll sit there, it'll be held there until it can infiltrate into the soil.
So it will eventually just dissipate into the ground regardless?
Exactly.
Instead of running right down into the wetlands.
Right.
So eventually it'll get to the wetlands regardless?
It'll get to the groundwater. I don't know if it'll get to the wetlands. It'll go down into the ground. Whether it travels laterally, it's not, most of it's not going to travel laterally to the wetlands. It'll sink down and replenish the groundwater.
Okay. I'm not here to dispute you, I'm just kind
Oh,
of curious.
no. No, I
I
understand.
try to understand that whole theory that it's just going to do what we want it to do, but so I'll take your word for it.
When it goes to the planning board, you'll also get another legal notice of that meeting when the
Okay.
site plan goes to the planning board.
That's fine.
And
So
there'll
that will
be,
be discussed more in depth there.
and they'll have detailed drawings of that, and I'm sure in-depth discussion,
Yeah.
including the town engineer will be involved, either saying, yeah, this is okay, or yeah, maybe not, whatever.
Shy of that, sounds like a great situation.
Great.
I'm
Thank you.
curious how that's all going to play out.
You know, yeah, please, you know, I want to encourage you to come for the planning board. If this gets to the planning board, to come to the planning board meeting, ask questions. There's
You guys
not.
don't want all my questions, there's too many.
Well, you know,
Never too many questions.
Oh, I promised there would be.
Well, we're happy about the project in front of us.
It's about Plaistow in general, I'm going to leave it there.
well, that's a different
We
story.
ain't got that kind of
That's a
time.
whole different board.
All right, guys, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And by the way, we're looking for additional alternates.
I'm actually, I have a tenant in my unit, I'm just here,
Oh, okay.
I reside in Salem.
Okay,
Okay, fair enough.
thanks. Anything else? Oh, do we have anybody else who wishes to speak? Ma'am? No, thank you. Okay,
Thing online.
okay.
I did not receive any emails prior to tonight's meeting.
Okay. Nothing else, folks? Okay, so I'm going to call this hearing to a close. We're going to go into deliberative session and decide that you're welcome to stay or not, you know, whatever floats your boat.
Excuse me, one
Yes.
question. Are we doing both?
We're going to do both in series,
Okay.
okay? is everybody comfortable with that before I close?
Yeah, it's fine.
Or does anybody have a question on the stairway?
No?
Okay. Then I'm closing both hearings, I guess, the hearing. And we are now, I love using this, in deliberative session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Well, don't thank us yet. Does anybody want to make a motion on this?
Are we just doing the one, or motion, both of them?
I need you to do them separately.
We're going to do them separately, yeah. So I need a motion for the first one,
Folks, they're still working up here.
for 21-19?
I will.
Okay?
I move to grant the request for a variance from Article 5, 220-321, letter I, 32I, to allow a structure to be set 36.3 feet from the property line where 50 feet is the minimum for the parcel located at 27 Plaistow Road, tax map 25, lot 33.
And do we have a second?
Second.
And just for the record, and for anybody listening, either here or out in TV land or internet land, we always make motions in the affirmative. It's just cleaner than trying to sometimes make it an affirmative and sometimes make it against. And just because he made a motion in the affirmative doesn't necessarily mean he's in favor of it. But that's the only way we can get something on the table to discuss. Okay, now that I've had that.
I have a comment. They're really, when you think about it, this is the perfect use for that piece of property. This is an established business within the town. They're located further up the street. As far, I don't know if it's they own all the NASA Jewelers or just this one, but it's basically a family-owned business that I know of. And really, I think this is great. We need more of this on Route 125. Taking the older buildings and either fixing them up or tearing them down and putting something new in there, brighten up the highway. I think it's good.
Okay?
I'm just gonna say that I know where their existing building is, and I know where they're parking and what they need for parking.
Yeah, I've been back there too.
And this suits it well, where just about anything else that was gonna go into this facility or rebuild on this facility is gonna require a lot more parking for somebody to invest into this property. So I think it's a good fit in that aspect, because they don't require 20 lots. You know, they're typical from, I mean, because I go to the Chicken Connection a lot. They've got maybe 4 or 5 clients in there at a time
Right.
on a busy day. I'm sure Christmas probably kills them, but I think that should be looked at as part of it, because moving it into another aspect, the next person that would want to buy this is going to run into all kinds of problems trying to fit a round peg in a square hole.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, I concur with Gary. Like I say, tear down an eyesore and put up a nice new fresh building.
It really is no worse than, as far as setback wise, the existing building. It actually is 300 square foot to our favor.
Yes,
Right.
more compliant.
You're not bringing it any closer to the
Correct,
street.
correct. And I'm not seeing where it has any effect at all on any of the abutters. Yeah, I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah, I think it's an improvement.
Well, let's go down to the variance criteria as well. So it's not contrary to the public interest. You know, it does, because, well, it does, it's not going to be the eyesore that's there. And it really is, it's making it more conform, or closer to conforming. So I believe that to be good. Spirit and intent, actually, this is you know, the spirit and intent of the ordinance is to maintain lateral separation from roadways. And this clearly does it. Substantial justice, actually, the statement on substantial justice, that's always kind of a wishy-washy one. I think the statement that was made about why this that granting the variance would allow for the productive use of the property. There's no benefit to the community, which isn't outweighed by the detriment to the property owner if the variance is denied. I think that was the most coherent explanation I've ever heard, and I've been doing this 20 years. Values of the surrounding property won't be diminished. You know, I don't think, you know, maintaining the existing setback issues actually make it slightly better while expanding into what would be the legal setback area. I don't see how that would diminish property values at all. And I think a nicer building there, you know, larger, hopefully better, more pointed building will, if anything, increase property values in the area. So, and we have seen no evidence, we've received no evidence contrary to that. Literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. Well, this is a small lot, you know, if we go by the literal interpretation of this, of the ordinance, we're really limiting what can be done there, maybe making it impossibly small. I mean, frankly, what's there now isn't large enough for yet another convenience store. So I'm not sure what else could go there. And I think that's, the lot size makes it an unnecessary hardship along that road. Well, those are my thoughts, at least, folks.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
We ready to take a vote?
Yes.
Dee, would you call the roll?
Dan Lloyd,
Yes.
Jonathan Gifford,
Yes.
Gary Ingham,
Yes.
Jim Unger,
Yes.
Peter Bealow.
Yes.
Your vote is 5-0-0.
Okay, now we need a motion for the second variance request. Dan?
I'll draft motion number 21-20. I move to grant the request for a variance from Article 5, 220-32I to allow a structure to be set 28.6 feet from the front property line where 35 foot is the minimum for the parcel located at 27 Plaistow Road, tax map 25, lot 33.
My apologies on the draft, that should say side property line.
Okay.
Make it side, yeah. And do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks. Jim? Yeah, you know, at the end of the day, I think this is no different from the last variance request. I don't think, it's not contrary to the public interest, and by the way, they do need a second exit, and there's limited places to put it. Spirit and intent is pretty much the same. Having that set of stairways really doesn't affect separation from neighbors. Same thing with substantial justice. I mean, there's really no gain. Nobody can step up and say, oh, this, by putting this stairway there, my property is being affected in any way. It's just not happening. And I don't see it affecting the value of surrounding properties. We've heard no evidence contrary to that, and I guess just my personal knowledge, at least, of the areas, says that it won't. And literal enforcement results in a hardship. And that's, because of where that building has to be placed to have a building there. If you want to, limits where it can be placed. And if, you want to have another egress, it's going to end up in a setback someplace. So that would be an unnecessary hardship.
I think if you go back to 3, substantial justice, if you look at that water retaining system, and COMCON has already signed off on that, and I'm sure it'll all go through the building and the planning, but that's substantial.
Yeah.
To hold back that's got a slide going down that back area, so all of that water stopping and having to leach is a huge, for that wetlands behind it, so I think that's
A big
it's
improvement.
right into 3 for substantial.
Okay. Any other comments? Are we ready for a vote?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Dee, please call the roll.
Jonathan Gifford,
Yes.
Gary Ingham,
Yes.
Jim Unger,
Yes.
Peter Bealow,
Yes.
Dan Lloyd.
Yes.
Your vote is 500.
Perfect. Have a good one. You guys aren't going to be open for Christmas, are you?
That was pretty succinct.
Thank you, be up next week.
Yeah.
I think it'll take at least two.
Maybe.
Good night.
Take care.
Good night. The last I have on your agenda this evening is a request for a rehearing in case number 21-10, a request from Joshua Manning, Lewis Builders Development for a variance from Article 5, Table 220-32FC1B to permit a lot to be created by subdivision with 100.4 feet of frontage where 200 feet is the minimum required. The property is located at 17 Harriman Road, tax map 50, lot 78 in the LDR zoning district. The property owner of record is Gerald E. Holt. You have in your packets a letter from the Lewis Group companies. That's the cover letter. And then you have the motion for reconsideration from Lewis Builders Development on behalf of Gerald Holt. It's lengthy. I'm happy to read it into the record, or if I could ask for a certification from each member that you have indeed read it,
Then we don't have to do that again.
where this is just under deliberative process, not public hearing.
Let's start with Gary. Did you read it?
I've read it.
John?
Yes, I have read it.
I read it multiple times.
Yep.
Dan?
I read it.
And Jim, thank you.
Thank you
We
all.
all read it. So, I went through this kind of in detail, and I'd like to just kind of give you my thoughts on it, and we can, or you guys, we could just start with opinions.
I have a question first. Before I open my mouth, I'm actually going to ask a question first. I visited with Mr. Holt on a completely separate reason. I was asking permission to go hunting on that property. Am I able to bring forth to the board things that he told me regarding this? Okay, that's what I don't want to, if I won't then. Okay, thank you.
No, we can't take like new testimony at this point, and that's what that would,
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, it would be.
that's,
Yeah. And it's basically hearsay on my part.
yeah.
That's why I wanted to check.
And I don't believe that conversation conflicted you, but if you feel it may have,
No.
then we can appoint Michael to fill
Well-
in for you. It's your choice, Gary, I'm not.
Yes, let's do that, if you don't mind. I think I would feel better doing that.
Okay. I appreciate that, which means that,
I abstain from everything, and I will go sit over there.
thank you very much. And we are appointing Michael Murray as alternate this evening. See, it was good that you came in.
Yes,
Mr. Murray, can you certify that you have indeed read the motion for rehearing?
yes, I have.
Thank you very much.
So as I went through the letter that was sent to us, there were 5 points that were made. And I'd like to kind of give a summary of what I kind of rebuttals to each, or my thoughts of each, if you will. On the first one, I believe the ZBA considered Mr. Keach, the engineer's statement regarding adequate sightlines, but I think we made a conclusion using our own local knowledge of having gone up and down that road hundreds of times over the years, at least in my case, that the sightlines would be difficult to maintain because of regrowth, and in winter, due to snow piles adjacent to the road, would reduce those sightlines. And also that the entire road is narrow, and due to that curve and hill, even with the change, visibility is difficult. On the second point, which was basically a restatement in a way of the first, again, same kind of conclusion. I believe we considered Mr. Keach's statement and concluded that, again, the sightlines would be difficult to maintain because of regrowth and because of winter snow piles adjacent to the road in winter, and the whole thing about the road is narrow and due to the curve and hill, even with changes, visibility is questionable. Number 3, again, and I hate to say it, but it was like another restatement of the same issue. And I concluded the same thing. We conclude that we consider Mr. Keach's statement regarding adequate sightlines, but concluded through our own local knowledge that it's going to be difficult to maintain them because of regrowth and in winter due to snow piles, and that that road is narrow and due to the curve and hill, even with the changes, visibility is difficult. Number 4, where they basically go and they basically mentioned that there's no immediate plan to develop the parcel. I read the minutes of both of the meetings, and, in the applicant's presentation during the meeting on the variance criteria, the applicant noted that any dwelling would be set back from the road. They're clearly looking at putting some kind of dwelling or dwellings back there. So,
Sense.
so they stated there will be development at some point. When, don't know. The ZBA chair, myself, I note that there's no evidence for diminution of property values that was presented there. There was no evidence presented from the applicant, there would be none. So we don't know anything about a diminution of property values, and I don't think we use that during our decision-making. And the 5th, I thought was most interesting. So I'm going to read their 5th statement. The finding that it was noted that the entire parcel proposed to be subdivided is heavily wooded, so it was unclear what maintenance was needed in response to applicant's statement that it was a hardship for the current owner to maintain the entire parcel, and why it would pose a hardship is contrary to the evidence and contrary to the fact that use like the word contrary a lot, and no contrary evidence was presented during the hearing to refute the applicant's assertion that maintaining the entire parcel is a hardship. Part of the hardship is protecting the heavily wooded property from trespassers and uninvited persons shooting firearms. In addition, Lewis Builders presented uncontroverted evidence that there was no immediate plans to develop the property, and if the variance was granted, the 2 parcels would otherwise meet town requirements. I'm going to say that merely stating that maintenance is a hardship does not make it so. And it would not be a hardship that goes with the land or is unique to this parcel. Therefore, that doesn't meet the criteria for a hardship in the state of New Hampshire. The applicant provided no evidence or details of exactly what the maintenance hardship is. And on a personal note, I own 40-plus acres in Maine, of all woodlands, and in the 13-plus years I've owned it, I've never walked the whole land once, and there was no maintenance required. I've had a forester do that, and he's only been there twice. Protecting property from trespassers was not offered as the reason during the hearing, nor was there evidence or even a statement that the property was posted. If not posted, and I drove by there today, it's on the Harriman side, at least it's not, I don't see any posted signs. So if not posted, then the owner allows trespassers, hunters, etc. So,
That could go for any of us.
well, yeah, but there was an assertion made that,
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your question.
No, I said that could be any of us who have property.
well,
If it's not posted, I'm not going to sit out there in a rocking chair and wait for someone to come by my
right,
property.
but
I get what
it's
you're
being,
saying.
it's asserted the hardship is protecting the property from trespassers.
Right.
Where there's no obvious move to do that
Right,
protection.
right.
Posting would be the first thing.
Right.
So, anyhow, those are my thoughts on it, and I don't believe we should be allowing a rehearing on this, based on do other people have similar opinions, different opinions, anything?
I'm like-minded.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm steadfast.
Okay. Jim, Michael?
I've noticed, excuse me, behind my property, there's a very large wooded area, and in the 15 years I've been there, I've never even seen the person who owns the property, who lives on Pollard, ever coming walking back and checking the property. So I don't think that is a significant issue, hardship.
Okay. Dee, do you have all that in the record?
I do.
So do you want to discuss this further or call for a vote on whether to allow a rehearing?
I think you're just being redundant if you discuss it any further.
Okay. Do I have to somebody have to make a motion on this?
Yes. Whether or not to grant the rehearing request.
No.
That's-
The motion will be to grant the rehearing
Yes.
request.
Because we do it in the affirmative.
'Cause we
You
do it
are
in the
right.
Affirmative. Do I have a second?
I'm sorry, were you making that motion?
I made that motion.
And you have a second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys confuse me sometimes, so
It's our job, Dee.
you do it well.
Thank you. Okay, let's call the roll.
Hold on, I lost track of where it was. Oh, Gary, Jim Unger. The motion is to grant.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out.
Right.
I'll say no.
Michael Murray,
No.
Peter Belo,
No.
Dan Lloyd,
No.
Jonathan Gifford.
No.
Your vote is 0-5-0.
Okay. Do we have anything else this evening, Dee?
I just need you to state for the record what your reason for denial is.
Our reason for denial was that
No new evidence.
there was no new evidence, and we had no evidence of making the decisions improperly or using improper evidence. Okay,
Thank you.
anything else for us tonight?
No.
Nothing? Okay, then in that case, I will call this meeting done. Another one for the record books.